Hi, and welcome back to our Sprinter build series. Today we're going to be doing the second part of the audio upgrades on our Sprinter camper van. Last time we upgraded the front speakers. The stock Mercedes speakers leave a lot to be desired, so we installed new front door speakers and new tweeters and made a big difference in the way that it sounds. But now we want to do the next part and add an amplifier. We're going to add some rear speakers in the rear of the van. This is a cargo van, so it only came with 2 speakers. And additionally, we've got a 5-channel amp that will also allow us to hook up a subwoofer. This is the passenger seat box. And this is where we have the S-Bar D2 heater. And I'll be installing the amp in here. And the reason for that is there are some raceways in the floor that make it really convenient to run wire from here up to the head unit. And because this van has the auxiliary battery, the connection for that is over here in the driver's seat base. So by locating the amplifier here, we have short wire runs to go back and forth to the head unit and short wire run for the power. And then additionally, we're also going to be mounting a small second inverter in here. And so the first thing we want to do is we need to get our amp installed in here where we can get to the front and the back for the wiring and also for the adjustments. But we also want to be able to get to our S-Bar to service it if we need to. So I've taken the cover off here just to make sure that with the plan that we can get in and out of there. So not wanting to drill holes in this bracket, there's a couple of studs in the back of the seat box. So I think the plan will be to mount this piece of wood here with nuts, and then we will use some angled aluminum that we screw to that, and then we will attach the amp at the back to this. And I thought about putting a plus nut in the floor down here, but I don't want to have to seal it and worry about exhaust from the S-Bar coming up through here. So I read such amazing things about the 3M VHB, very high bond tape, that what I'm going to do is use the bond tape to attach this to the floor. And if it doesn't work, no big deal. I can come back, the driver's seat comes out, or passenger seat comes out in a few minutes, and I can go ahead and put that plus nut. But I'm going to go ahead and try the VHB tape to mount this for now. So let's go ahead and get started on making our mounts. Torque screws in this plate, and then the floor lifts out of place, and then we have 3 nuts to remove from this raceway under the radio. this harness out of this main Metra harness, and we're only using it for this, and I'll show you why. Here's the plug that was in the stock Mercedes harness, and you'll notice that there are spots for 8 wires, but because my van's a cargo van, there are only 4 wires, so front left, positive and negative, and front right, positive and minus. So the plug that we are wiring up is the same plug, but it has 8 wires on it, so we're using this essentially for the wires. So this is going to be as much for my benefit as everyone else's, because someday I'm probably going to wonder what color these wires are. So I'm using 4-strand wire, and this is the front speaker, plus and minus, left and right. So I'm wiring those up in the respective locations on the plug, and I'll shrink wrap them. And then I've got another one marked rear, so these will connect to the wires that were missing from the Mercedes harness. So collectively, these 8 wires that I've got marked front and rear here, they go through the back of the dash, and they come out down below the dash. They go through the wire chase, factory wire chase, and then they go into the compartment, seat compartment where the amp is located. And you'll see I've got a marked front and rear here. So these will connect to this harness that came with the Alpine amp, and it plugs in here. So these are high-level speaker inputs. So that'll take the signal that's already been amplified from the factory head unit. It'll get amplified more in the amplifier, and then it will come out the back through a new set of terminals, and that's what this wire is. Front amplified return. So we're taking front, left, right, plus and minus, so a total of 4 wires. So this is run through the amp and has been amplified, and it comes back to the head unit. And now what this will do is this will connect back up to the Mercedes harness, and it will power the front door speakers and the front tweeters. So that way we're not hacking the wiring harness, and we're not having to run any new wires to the speakers. Now this is probably more for me than you guys in case I need to look back at it, but for the front 4 wires, I've got white to white, which is the left front positive. I've got black on my wiring to white black, which is the left front negative. Red on my wiring to gray on the plug, which is right front positive. And then green to gray black, and that's right front negative. And then on the rear harness, I have white on my wiring to green on the plug is left rear positive. Black to green black is left rear negative. Red to purple is right rear positive, and green to purple black is right rear negative. So once again, here's the Mercedes connector that was plugged into the back of the head unit. This goes to the speakers. We're unplugging this. Now we've taken our new harness and we're sliding it in its place. So it clicks in right there. So now we have our 8 wires for front and rear speakers, and these 8 wires travel to the amp that get amplified, and then we have the front speakers, the amplified signal returning. It returns to this harness. Now we take the Mercedes connector that was connected in the back of the head unit, that goes out to our front speakers. It connects into this. So now we have not cut any factory wires. We have our wires coming in, or going out, getting amplified, and coming back. So if we ever wanted to reverse this, we could simply unplug these connectors and swap them again. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to zip tie it back in the dash so it doesn't rattle around. The radio itself is very slim and there's a really deep space back here, so plenty of room for that to go back there. And then we're done up here in the head unit area. Now we've put the factory connector back in the back of the head unit, the entire block, and we locked the bail. And then we have this zip tied so it's not going to rattle around, so now we can put the head unit back. So now we take the pigtail that connects to the amp. These are the high level inputs for the amp. We need to wire these 8 wires to the front and rear speaker wires coming from the head unit. Now the amp, the speaker level inputs are marked left and right, plus and minus. And there's channel 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm making channel 1 and 2 the front, channel 3 and 4 the rear. And then left and right will get the respective wires. So here's front, we know it's labeled front. And in this case, using the wiring diagram that we made earlier, I know that white is the left front. So I will wire, and that just happens to be channel 1 left positive is white. So in this case we're going white to white based on the orientation of the plug. First thing I'm going to do is make my positive and ground connections to the amp. Looking down into our passenger seat pedestal, we've got power and ground, and these are going to get staked to the side here so they're not just loose in here. And then they go through this trough in here that connects over to the driver's seat pedestal. And here's our ground wire. We're going to put a lug on it and we're going to ground it right here at this factory grounding point. And then here's the positive that we just ran, and it's going to go through the circuit breaker. So through the circuit breaker and then to our auxiliary battery connection right here. Now we need to wire the amplified signal that goes back to the head unit. So that will feed just the front speakers. And then there's no point in going back to the head unit for the rear speakers. So we're going to go from here direct up the B pillar into the back. So right now we're just hooking up the fronts. So we know from our wiring diagram that white is channel 1, which is left front positive. So that goes here. We know black is left front negative, which is channel 1. Okay, and red is right front positive, which is channel 2. Green, which is right front negative, channel 2. Now take my driver's rear, and I know that that's going to be channel 3. Now passenger rear is channel 4. This is subwoofer channel. I don't have a subwoofer yet, but I went ahead and pre-wired for one. And now we have our wires connected. So this is the one, the amplifier. This is the one for the inverter. Another thing, I just have this velcroed in here, and another thing is there is an access door in the side of this pedestal over here, and so if one of these breakers were to trip, I can open up that access door and reach in and reset the breakers. So that's why the breakers are sitting here. Another thing I chose to do is I had added 150 amp fuse here, and I noticed that in the pre-fuse block up by the battery, Mercedes had a bunch of fuses to fuse the connections that leave from the pre-fuse block. And so the starting battery has a 150 amp fuse, but I wasn't sure. I'm sure there's a fuse somewhere for it, but I couldn't locate a fuse for the auxiliary battery, so I decided to go ahead and put one here. That way I know that the auxiliary battery line is fused. And if there is one somewhere, like I said, I'm sure there is. It's duplicative. Duplicative is better than... This is for peace of mind for me. So I'll go ahead and put the cover back on. Call it a day on that. I want to show you guys just how little power this amplifier draws. So I've got my clamp meter, put it on the negative. So with the volume just barely on, it's around 0.8 amps. As we turn it up, that's barely even an amp with the music really turned up. That's pretty impressive. So for those that have the Mercedes van, what it means is that you don't necessarily have to take it to the dealer to have them activate the rear speaker outputs. So again, the amp will take signal from the front, turn it into a signal for the rear and for the sub. So I'm pretty astounded how it sounds, even with no subwoofer. Putting the initial speaker upgrade that we did in this van, I have another video that I did on that. Just going from stock speakers to aftermarket ones made a pretty big difference, and now adding 2 more speakers and adding the amp has made a really big difference. So I imagine it's going to sound really good once we get the subwoofer installed. I just don't have a cabinet for it yet. So I know you guys are getting tired probably of the audio stuff and want to see us move on with more exciting parts of the build, and I agree, but I needed to get this done while I have the headliner out, because I don't want to pull it again. So I'm wrapping up the audio and the charging and all the electrical system now, and then we can move on to more fun parts of the build. So thank you guys for watching.